live from the Bronx, episode 27. We are the podcast that celebrates Bronx creatives and change makers, and I'm your boy, KB.
What is going on, beautiful people? It is your boy, Jay. Before we jump into episode 27, y'all already know, take a second to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with everything we have going on with Live from the Bronx. Y'all know the saying, tell a friend to check us out.
So today we have a very, 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 very special episode. So we are always the podcast that celebrates Bronx creatives and change makers, but today we are the podcast that celebrates Bronx women. So what we are going to do today is we have a panel of 3 super dope Bronx Black women who are going to kind of share their stories, talk to you about who they are, what they do. With all the things happening in this country to Black women, we thought it was only necessary that we have a conversation about the state of Black women. So we realized that the state of Black women is a very large topic, and there's no way that we're going to be able to cover all of it in this hour. But what we are going to do is we're going to have a dope conversation where we celebrate Black women, where we discuss things that are going on for and to Black women, and we're going to learn some stuff. So rather than Jason and I do it ourselves, we have a really dope panel. So I am going to ask the panelists kind of to introduce themselves, what industries they work in, and whatever else they want to share. And we are going to learn a lot, and it's going to be dope. So Tasha, if you want to start it out.
Yeah, what's good, y'all? It's Snobby or Tasha, depending on how you know me. I am from the Bronx. If you are familiar with the Bronx Zoo area, that's where I'm from. I live in Florida now. I am an attorney, and I am the host of Gyrl SOS. Check me out. Available on all platforms and YouTube. When you get there, click subscribe also so you don't miss nothing. Yeah, it's all about being unapologetically Black, being unapologetically a woman, and occupying spaces unapologetically.
Yeah, I feel like we all got an intro like that. What's up, y'all? First, I wanted to say thank you to Jason and Kevin for having us be a part of this podcast. I'm so hyped about this podcast, especially being from the BX borough. And I'm so grateful to share this platform with these 2 amazing other Black women. Hi, everyone. I'm Britnee Rock. I was raised in the Bronx, and I'm so excited to be able to talk about everything Black women related. My purpose in life has definitely shifted throughout the years, but the core of everything that I've done has been to enlighten and empower specifically people of color, super specifically Black and brown women and young women. And I'm so honored, or have been honored, to be able to do that in the education nonprofit space as a former college advisor, talent acquisition manager, and most currently in my role as a director of diversity, equity, and inclusion for a hospitality group. I am a Black cisgender woman, and I firmly believe that I am here as a vessel to be able to teach and empower women of color, and to also learn and continue the learning process as we continue to experience things as Black women daily. So I'm excited. Woo woo.
No doubt, no doubt. And last but definitely not least.
I mean, that was a lot to come after. You ladies are absolutely fabulous. And I too am so honored to be on this panel with you all. And of course, I love the podcast, so this is a big deal for me. With that said, shout outs to the Boogie Down, my home, my heart, my everything, all day, every darn day. So I am a Black cisgendered woman. I am very proud of it. Listen, all day, every day, I feel like there is no mistaking when I show up in spaces that I'm Black, I'm here, I'm proud, and you will listen to me. That's a big deal to me. So I guess for a large majority of my life, I've been one to want to kind of change the way that people perceive Black women without changing myself, though, right? So like I encounter a lot of women and we are seen as loud and boisterous and just over dramatic. And I'm like, live it, accept it. I am all these things, and yet still doesn't take away from how dope I am in every realm that I step into. So professionally, my 9 to 5, I work for a city agency. I'm a consultant there in their workforce development. So I'm a senior implementation manager by day. And then I also just started my own business. So I am a life life and professional coach. So, just kind of like spreading confidence and success throughout wherever I go. So, yeah, I'm excited to be here, and that is a little bit about who I am.
Yo, I'm so excited for this conversation. And you can just hear from the introductions. Y'all better have y'all notepads, y'all better have y'all pens, and be ready to take some notes because we are about to go in. So with that, thank you for introducing yourselves. Thank you for being here on Live from the Bronx. You all just took a second to introduce yourself, and we learned a little bit about your professional life and how you show up within your career. But we always like to get a little deeper and let our audience know who it is that we're actually going to engage in a conversation with. So with that said, who are you and how do you identify? And I'm going to start with Denise for this one.
All right. So who I am. It's so interesting that you asked that question, right? Because I feel like the last 3 years or so, I've really been going deeper into that question and I guess really accepting it. And the more layers that I pull back, I realize I am just complex. I'm just this beautiful, amazing, complex individual with so many layers that I first have learned to celebrate. And now I'm unapologetically pushing that out on the world because y'all gonna celebrate this too. And all of that at the core of every single piece of me, I am Black and I am proud and I am accepting of all that all the weight that comes and all the beauty that I have to give back out. So in short, a proud Black woman. And that's what that means too.
Again, Jason, I think that is a loaded question. And similar to Denise, I am a proud Black woman, but I will say that, it has been a journey for me to comfortably live in the skin that I'm in and to comfortably be who I am. Very, briefly, I, grew up in the Bronx and I went to a private boarding school that was predominantly white for high school. And so, high school are those crucial years where we sort of figure out who we are and what we want to do and who we want to become and grow into. And being in a predominantly white space that wasn't, nurtured or fostered people of color really messed with my mind a lot about who I am. Just Britnee alone, but then how is Britnee showing up into spaces where she is the only? How is Britnee showing up to spaces where she's the only Black person, the only woman of color? And very early on, I started to be almost a little bit shameful of, who I am and how am I showing up into certain spaces. And, I really had to do the work on myself as I started to grow, about loving my skin, being a darker skinned Black woman, about loving my Bronx accent, about loving, my acrylic nails, all the things that, people would say, oh, well, that makes you this or that makes you that. I really had to embrace and say, this is Britnee Rock and this is who you're going to get in the flesh. And the more that I started owning that, and the more that I started to understand that I have these layers of complexity, of love, of, happiness, of, energy that I want to give out into the world, the more I wanted to be able to show up confidently and authentically into spaces, particularly in corporate America. Because I think that that's so important because for so long we've been conditioned and socialized to think that who we are is not good enough for, these predominantly white spaces or companies or corporations. And so, it's so important to me, especially as a DE&I leader, to make sure that I don't have to change any of this to be successful and impactful in the work that I do and the people that I interact with. This is me, and this is how I'm going to show up. And I think that the more that we are authentic to ourselves and how we show up and how we dress and how we speak and language and everything like that, the more we can normalize this. This is us, Black people, Black folk, Black women. We're not going anywhere. Our culture, we're not going anywhere. And so the more that we're able to show up in these spaces to truly who we are and to be able to teach people, you're going to get this today, okay? And not sugarcoat anything. I think the more that is just conducive to both people learning about, different backgrounds, different communities, and the more we can progress and engage. So that's who I am.
B-Rock, talk that talk. I mean, I'm telling you, y'all not ready. I told y'all get the notepad. Tasha, talk to the people.
So who I am and who I identify as is I'm a recycled soul. I've been here before. I know that unequivocally because I have never, ever been uncomfortable in my skin. I have never been uncomfortable making other people uncomfortable that my Black ass is in the room. I have never been uncomfortable commanding the room. I don't care who's there. I don't care what you feel like the hierarchy of conversation is. If I'm in the room, I dictate the energy. And I know that. And I use that at my will. And because I've always been that way, I know that this soul has been here before. This vessel's been here for 4 decades, but this soul has been here before, and this soul has endured a lot of stuff. I know that because I have an issue with how empathetic Black people are. That is a big pet peeve of mine. We are very quick to forgive, and we don't ever ask for revenge. We ask for equity. Like, just treat me as good as you treat everybody else. We never ask for, no, actually, motherfucker, you fucked up, so I'm gonna need reparations for that, and then we can get to equity. So that's a big issue for me. But in the way I deal with people, I find that I have like that real, like I still have a grandmother way. Like I can still kind of turn it off and on. And I know that that is not my innate, that's not how I want to react, but that's my soul controlling how I react, so that I'm able to better manage the situation. It's not always the best way to be aggressive. I'll admit that's my preference. It is my preference, but I know not to lean into it. And I know that that's not me. That is my old soul guiding me. I always say that I walk the path that the Most High has led for me, but he sent Orishas to guide me, to make sure that when I start to waver into my ego, that I'm brought back onto the path that is about my community and about my people and not about me. So that's me, and that's how I identify. I always say I'm Bruja gang.
Yo, I'm telling y'all. So thank you for sharing those real personal parts of who you are, and for always being unapologetic. I think that is what we're seeing as a theme of this conversation thus far. And Kevin started off the podcast by providing some framing about how deep we're about to go into this conversation, right? So the next question I want to ask you three ladies, and in no particular order, this is totally open for all of you just to jump right in. What comes to mind when you hear the words, the state of Black women?
I'll start off. What comes to mind for me is the reason I started my podcast, is that SOS, we need to save ourselves. That's the state of Black women. Black women are out educated. Black women are out earning. Black women are starting businesses more than anybody else. Denise being a nod to that just right here on this podcast. We are literally exceeding in every demographic, and we're also leading when there's a protest. We're also leading when there's injustice. We're always at the front of the fight. We take all the bullets for everybody. We sacrifice our families. We sacrifice our times. We sacrifice our relationships. We sacrifice our careers for the larger good. We have to unlearn a lot of shit that we've learned. A lot of that shit doesn't serve us anymore. A lot of that shit never served us. And we're just conditioned, and it is literally the time that we have to say, listen, if you don't show up for us, yo, I can't fuck with you the long way. And that's that. It's got to be a hard stop on who we're going to show up for and how we're going to show up, because we're continuing to sacrifice, and everyone's not sacrificing for us. Like, there's no equity, there's no parity in the way people show up for us.
Wow. Yeah. Tasha, thank you so much. So first I want to kind of start off by saying, Britnee and Tasha, thank you so much for your authenticity. Often I am nervous when I start off things, and just listening to you guys, I was like, you know what, let it go. Tasha, where you went with your response to the state of Black women, that's pretty much in direct alignment with where I am. So I think about that question, and what comes to mind is, we have laid down so damn long. We have been laying down. We give of our bodies, we give of our minds, we give of our labor, and we're constantly giving and taking care of people. And what is given back to us? We don't even give back to one another. So the fact that I'm here and this energy is the way it is, ladies, y'all don't even know. Y'all are pouring into my cup with every word that you speak. And oftentimes, we as Black women don't have a lot of those spaces, because we're in constant competition, because the world has placed us in such a low position that all we're trying to do is figure out what we can get. and we give and give and give, and we are, and this is not an insult to the Black women that may be listening. I hope it's a wake-up call of sorts. We are empty, and it's time to fill back in because we have so much. This is why people take from us, and we're tired right now. If this is not a call to say, it's get right, we are tired. No one shows up for us the way that they should with all that we do for this world, just period. So the state of Black women right now, this is a dire situation. This is code red situation. So get up, ladies. There's a ton of us standing beside you. Get up.
Thank you, Denise and Tasha, for your testimony, okay? Because these are testimonies. I definitely identify, and I just feel so empowered hearing you both speak. And, you know, this is such, again, a loaded question. And first, you know, for me, you know, Black women, we are multifaceted beings. And I think, you know, to really understand the state of where we are at currently, is to know, at least for me and my own individualized experience, is to know that like we are constantly living in a space of duality. And what I mean by that is, you know, Black women, we are taking up space for healing, investing in our wellness, therapy, all of the above. But simultaneously, we are subjected to the traumatic experiences of seeing Black women, men, and children being murdered by police and, you know, racist bystanders. And, you know, we have fought, you know, hard and have elevated and grown to become, you know, Tasha and Denise, you know, CEOs of companies, entrepreneurs, vice presidential candidates. And despite having the qualifications or being overqualified in some circumstances, you know, to be able to push forward in our careers or push forward in presenting our purpose and gifts to the world, we are also simultaneously met with doubt of others and, you know, inherent racist and sexist systems and processes that are meant to stump our growth and keep us down. In some cases, like erasure of our voice and existence. And so like, what I think the world is awakening to, far too late, y'all late, okay? What the world is awakening to right now is, you know, Black women being unapologetically loud and bold and coming for everything that we know is ours, despite the challenges we might be up against. And so, and when I think about the current state of Black women, you know, I think, you know, in order to be able to truly understand that, like, we have to know about our history and lineage of Black women, right? Like, we've been about this life, right? It's in our ancestry and it's in our blood. Like, we not new to this, we true to this, period. And so like, we stand on the shoulders of women, you know, like Harriet Tubman and Ida B. Wells and Sojourner Truth and Shirley Chisholm. And, you know, I think about all these powerful Black women who did far more with way less. And that keeps me encouraged. And that keeps me wanting to empower the Black women around me who I meet and in different communities and different settings. So when I think about the state of Black women, I think about the women who came before me and how powerful they were and how they lived inside of me and encouraged me every day to continue despite the challenges that, you know, we may face. And similar to the point that Denise and both Tasha made earlier is, you know, in the last several years, you know, I've seen this emergence, you know, of Black womanhood in a powerful way, you know, through having more dialogues and creating community amongst women of color and taking up space and providing platforms for us to be authentically who we are. And, you know, this idea around, you know, Black women empowerment is so crucial right now and is so critical at this point in time. And, you know, empowerment and empowering, it is an action word. Like, it is a practice. Similar to the term of allyship, like, we need to ensure, you know, how our empowerment, making sure that it isn't performative, but that it's action-based. And so, like, to me, being able to empower and uplift Black and brown women, you know, is truly a position that I have been honored to be able to do and also receive. And similar to what I explained earlier, you know, it's taken me a while to be able to be in that position, to be able to uplift and encourage other women. And I say this because, you know, in order to be able to uplift and encourage other women, I truly think that, you know, you need to be able to see the light in yourself before you're able to see the light in others. And I tell y'all this because, you know, we are conditioned to view our community and the people within it in a certain light, okay? And the reason why this is important is because, you know, growing up, you know, we are taught to think that, you know, it's a crab in a barrel situation, similar to what you were saying, Denise, about, you know, well, only one of us can make it. It can only be one of us. It can only be one of us. And so having to change that mentality and truly believe that, you know, when one of us makes it, we all making it. When I make it, I'm taking my sisters to the top of me. I'm providing opportunity and spaces for us to show up who we are. And so I truly think that, you know, in order to really successfully empower and uplift Black women, we first need to empower and uplift ourselves, right? And then be able to provide the platform and the space to be able to bring other Black women along with us and really challenge ourselves daily to figure out how are we actively empowering each other. Is it the text that I send you before you do the podcast, sis? Congratulations, like you got this. Is it me actually, you know, showing up to an event that you've organized and I know you've put hard work in it? Is it me sending an affirmation? Is it me, you know, sending you flowers saying, thank you, sis, for being you, right? These are the kinds of affirmations and empowerment that we need for us to continue to thrive, because similar to your point, Tasha, we gonna save us. It's us. We gonna save us, nobody else. And so to continue to foster and build these communities where Black women are at the center is so important and definitely crucial to, you know, continuing and furthering the state of Black women in a positive and healthy way.
So I don't even really want to talk after that because I don't really have nothing to contribute. That was just so. So before I even get into any of the questions, I just want to say I'm honored that the three of you thought our podcast worthy to come kick it with us this morning. And just like Jason said, if you're listening, make sure you're taking notes. I'm actually taking notes as y'all are speaking because this is an episode where I definitely want to talk less and learn more. So my question, Jason started very general. I'm going to kind of get a little more specific. This is an election year. So as we know, it's probably the most important election in our lifetime, right? So we have, for the first time, so we have a potential Black first lady, and she would be the very first Black first lady in Kamala Harris. So I remember I was having some conversations with my friends around before we knew who was going to be Joe Biden's running mate, and people were talking about like Michelle Obama. And I was honest, I was really scared. I was like, I didn't want Michelle Obama to run because I'm like, this country doesn't deserve Michelle Obama. When Michelle Obama was the first lady, they dragged her. The way they talked about her was crazy. So I guess my question to the three of you, do you think that this country is ready for a Black first lady? And I guess part of that, do we deserve a Black first lady? I would love to see it, but I want to know y'all thoughts.
So just really quickly, great catch, Tasha, right? So just to be clear, we're talking about vice president, right? Potential vice president, first Black woman VP.
So I do a lot of lives on my Black Gyrl SOS IG. I do a lot of work around elections. I always have. I used to be in the education space, and when I would have my summer youth kids like walk up and down Fordham in the hot sun, registering people to vote. You ain't getting them checks unless you come in here with the right number, people register to vote. So you better hit Fordham, hit the bricks hard. So like elections, politics, very, very big deal to me. Obviously Kamala being an attorney, really, really big deal for me. I feel like I agree with you 1,000% that America did not deserve Michelle. Aside from the fact that Michelle didn't want to do it anyway, America didn't deserve her. She is the most educated, most accomplished first woman to ever occupy what is now 1600 Black Lives Matter Avenue. And the way they treated her, you got to be shit. Like, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? Jackie O could never. Barbara could never. Like, are y'all on something? Please. Sis served y'all education. She served y'all accomplishments. She served y'all look. She served initiative. She got kids active. They could never. We are in very dire times, and a lot of people are very uneducated. I was just home for like a month last month, and I spent a lot of time just talking to people I grew up with, really trying to educate them on the process, trying to educate them on the importance of local elections, understanding that you moving Cheeto out the White House is not going to stop over prosecution of Black people. That is local shit. You know, trying to explain to them the real grand scale of what's going on. People want to debate, oh, well, Biden is just as fucked up as Trump. Listen, beloved, let me walk you through the shit you missed in 5th grade when you was napping in motherfucking social studies. Here's the thing. The executive branch appoints the federal bench. The federal bench is a lifetime appointment. They gotta die. They gotta die. Ruth's seat is empty because she died. Scalia's seat went empty because he died. These are lifetime appointments. This shit isn't gonna affect you. It's gonna affect your child and your grandchild. There are states already trying to roll back abortion. Hell, Alabama did it. The Supreme Court in their state had to come and interject. Do you know what that means? That means because the person that he's already nominated for the bench, she wants to roll back Roe versus Wade. She actually uses the term handmaid, as in Handmaid's Tale, for those of you familiar with the show. She uses the term in her regular verbiage. She has used it in articles that have been published in academic journals. This is her language. This is native to her. This is not foreign. This is not some new shit she's adopted. This is who she is. When they roll, if they get somebody else on the bench will be stacked in their favor. They already have the Senate. We only have the House. If they roll back Roe versus Wade, let me give you an example of what that looks like for your daughter. God forbid, your daughter turns 13. She is minding her business on her way to fucking high school, on her way home from track practice. She is assaulted, sexually raped, unable to have a fucking abortion, has to keep a rape baby. Do you know the kind of, first of all, there's the trauma of the assault. There's the trauma of the rape. There's the trauma of having to look the rape baby in the face every fucking day because you have to keep that child. You no longer have an option. And not that everybody gets rid of children that are born out of those circumstances, but it's having the option. It's having the option to say, this is not going to be a healthy situation for me. Me having to look at this child every day is also going to cause me to cause trauma to that child. We are now creating generations, more generations of trauma. This is what happens when you leave someone like fucking Cheeto in office with the authority to appoint to the federal bench. And it's not just the Supreme Court. I think there are roughly 35 federal benches that are up for new appointments. 35. That's a lot of federal fucking appointments. That's at least 2 generations of people that are going to be affected by this election. Saying that, oh, you know, well, Biden's not perfect. Who the fuck is? You probably ain't either. You probably did a lot of fucked up shit 10 years ago that you now would be like, oh, that motherfucker was wild. Yeah, people do get the space to grow. What Cheeto has shown us is that he has no intentions on changing. He is comfortable in his skin. He's comfortable saying during a presidential debate, Proud Boys, stand back and be ready, or whatever the fuck he said. He's very comfortable alarming white supremacists. He's very comfortable enabling white supremacists. He sat up there when he was running against Hillary and talked so much shit about her, literally made fun of her because she was sick and couldn't make it to one of her appearances. Meanwhile, now his ass is laid up with COVID. When I tell you Karma's a wild bitch with no vacation days, here we are. Here we are. So you got to be really conscious of the fact that it's about the larger issue. Nobody's going to be perfect. We're not going to get a perfect politician. Hell, Joe Biden didn't even want to run. The DNC snatched his ass out because he could get the white votes that we need to fucking move the needle along. Bringing Kamala was the smart move because for once the Democrats are planning ahead. Because we're going to need this seat for at least 12 years just to get back where the hell Obama had us, because that's how far back we've been. He's going to be the first sitting president to leave with a deficit in the unemployment rate. How do you fuck that up, bro? How? I mean, you were spoon-fed everything. You were spoon-fed a good economic situation. You were spoon-fed a team that was prepared to plan for a pandemic. You fired them. I mean, but this is on brand for white men. They are always spoon-fed everything and throw up everything and leave us with nothing. So, you know, on brand. But to the point of the question, this election is beyond serious, and it is beyond just the White House. It is the Senate, it's your state senates, it's your council people, it is voting for your state attorneys or your district attorneys, depending on what your jurisdiction calls it. Like, this shit is important from top to bottom, and we cannot drop the ball. You need to make sure that your registration is up to date. You need to be checking that shit up until the last day of registration. You need to get your mail-in ballot, whether you plan to go and vote in person or not. Get your mail-in ballot anyway, so that you have time to sit with the referendums that are on the ballot. A lot of cities have like a lot of different charters that are coming up. I know in my city, we've got like clean water stuff. They're trying to get rid of my post office. I've been advocating for my post office like all year. And when I started, everybody thought I was crazy until the mass post office shit started. And then everybody seen I wasn't bugging out. Read the room, pay attention. It's the little shit that don't make sense that starts happening in your neighborhood that is basically like, you know, when shit rolls down a hill and it gets bigger and bigger, well, that shit's gonna land on you. We're the ones at the bottom of the hill. So you need to pay attention. You gotta really be astute and be alert. And it can't be this individualized approach to voting. Like, oh, well, I'm gonna withhold my vote. Huh? That's dumb. That's dumb. Motherfuckers need to vote blue, period. When they get in office, then we have another job. That's keeping them accountable. But we gotta get them in office first. We can't talk about the shit they're not going to do for us when they're not in a position to do it. Let's get them there first, and then we mobilize to keep them accountable.
I mean, my drop. I don't even.
I'm sorry, I do a lot of work in this space. I'm sorry.
My job, that's all that I can really say to that. I really don't have much to add. But ditto to everything that you said, Tasha. And I think you just bring up some amazing and valid points as we think about, you know, this upcoming election. And to the question, you know, Black women, like, we're more than just reliable voters. We show up and show out. Like, we are reliable visionary candidates too. And, you know, to your point, Tasha, you know, the fact that all but one president and, you know, every vice president in the history of the US has been a white man is like completely like just unbelievable at this point. And, you know, the American psyche, when we think about leadership from an American standpoint, equates and, you know, promotes to this one demographic, which is white men. And so, yes, you know, I think Kamala, you know, is a great VP elect for this potential election. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that, you know, we need to protect Black women and the Black women agenda. Like, that's it. Like, and until America, honestly, like, serves Black women in that way, we are going to continue to see, you know, these struggles from a community and larger effort, right? Black women's agenda is about protecting, you know, Black women and maternal morbidity and, you know, police brutality and, you know, our communities and healthcare and, you know, to the things you were talking about, Tasha, like all of these things, like this is a Black women's agenda, it's a women's agenda, it's a healthcare agenda. Like, we need to ensure that, you know, our agendas and the things that we set forth as a Black community, like our issues get resolved, or maybe not resolved because they're long, you know, deeply integrated issues, but that we're coming to the table and somebody's listening, okay? And I don't know if y'all read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. Such a good book if you haven't read it. But she said in her book, you know, the difference between a broken community and a thriving one is the presence of women who are valued. And that's a mic drop within itself. Like, think about that. Like, how are we valuing, you know, our community, the government, like our smaller communities? Like, how are we valuing women? How are we showing up for them? How are we listening to their agenda? And I truly, you know, believe, and we've always said this, you know, within the Black community, like women are the backbone. Like, we are the backbone to this. And so, like, to your points earlier, both Denise and Tasha, you know, like, we give everything. We be giving y'all blood, sweat, and tears. And it's just like, you know, when are our needs going to be met from a healthcare standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, from a social standpoint? Like, when are these needs going to be met? And, you know, again, to echo Tasha, please get out and vote, y'all. Vote the right way, vote blue, because there is a lot at stake. And if you don't think that shit could get worse, it most definitely will. And so please, please exercise your right to vote. There's no middle part, okay? Let me tell you, a vote for Trump is a vote for Trump. Not voting is a vote for Trump. Not voting for Biden is a vote for Trump. So it's as simple as that, okay? There's so much at stake. And please, like, also think about your individualized needs, but think about the communities who are fucking suffering right now at the hands of a presidential candidate who does not care about them. So many communities are suffering, are dying, who don't have the resources and support that they need to literally survive and thrive. Like, and this is his agenda. This is a racist white agenda. And so I know that I steered away from the question about, you know, do we think you know, the world is ready to handle a Black woman as a VP? Y'all gonna get ready, okay? Y'all gonna get ready. And do they deserve us? Absolutely not. None of y'all motherfuckers deserve Black women, because we are a light to this life. And I'm telling y'all that. And no, y'all don't deserve us, but we understand what we bring to the world and the magnitude of our impact to create change. And so we will do it. But now what we're requesting of y'all is that we gonna do it, but y'all gotta serve and give back to us as well. So I'll leave it at that.
Well, okay. Britnee, Tasha, you slayed that whole question. Britnee, you came on, revived it, killed it again. Wow, thank you ladies so much for sharing your thoughts on the matter. So with that said, there's not much for me to add. I'll just kind of say to the question, no. Again, like Britnee did point out, no, you guys, no, America doesn't deserve us. All right, so having Kamala come on, no, America does not deserve her. And yet she is needed. And more Black faces in the White House, we are needed. In very, very public ways. We're not needed in the kitchen. We're not needed in you know, house Negro status. We're not needed there anymore. Okay, we built this, so we need to come back for the space that we built. Women in general, we are givers, we are nurturers, we are caretakers. And this is exactly why we are needed for this country, because we need to come back and take care of this country, show you guys how y'all fucked it up this whole time. Let us come back and take care of you guys. The other thought that comes to mind when thinking about Black people in the White House, just in general, is that this country, and Tasha, you talked about it, right? So this country having white men serve as presidents, all with the exception of one. Really, if that wasn't just like, it's almost like a book cover for how racist the country has been designed to be. And time again, people are like, we've evolved. No, we haven't. The cover of the book has yet to change. We have not changed. We've made a little bit of growth over here. We made a little bit of growth over there. And for me, I feel like I beg to argue that growth is nothing more than just a cover up to get us to be quiet, because maybe we made a little bit of rumble over in this space. So the more that we have Black people step up and you know, put ourselves out front, the more the country is exposed. We are standing up, we are talking up. So yes, Kamala is needed. We cannot afford to have more of a gap between the last Black face in the White House to the next one. We can't afford it. This country is saying every time that they have to pull the military into a city to shut shit down, we are saying, no, we're ready. Kill all this racist stuff. We're calling it out. We are ready. So yes, does America deserve her? No. Do we need her? Yes. And I tell you another thing. If you don't give us her, know that with the awakening that we're having, this shit's gonna get real bad. I'm not, and I don't care how it's taken, honestly, because that's the other thing. Everybody's so worried. You're promoting this down to the little things. We talk about, I'm gonna go off topic a little bit. We talk about the defunding the police, and I've heard so many different arguments. Defunding, no, you don't want to do. Shut the fuck up and read what each city is saying. The cities that are promoting this, read through what they're saying, because oftentimes what people are scared of because of the term, in the language of what they're proposing, some amazing, like some of the things that I've read, I'm just like, golly, y'all are intelligent. And of course, you know, you put a team together to craft these things. It's just, We get so stuck on the small things because we are stupid, and that's what racism encourages you to do, encourages you to do, is to remain stupid, to remain ignorant, that we get caught up in a word. I don't have time for your word. I don't care what the word is. Just do the action. Stand up, say I'm tired, fight back in whatever way you can. And yes, go out and vote. Make sure Kamala gets in this space, because if not, y'all ain't gonna be ready for what comes after. One other point I wanted to talk about, because Tasha, you brought in the local elections, and both you and Britnee talked about the importance of just voting in general. To my people, listen up, listen. We get in spaces where we feel like nothing's gonna change. I'm tired of hearing this. Nothing's gonna change. They are going to do what they want. They're going to do what they want. The they that we're talking about are going to continue to do what they want as long as we continue to say what we're not going to do. Voting is a legal practice that this country set up that we can then use to our advantage to turn on their head. It was never designed for us. However, we kept pushing and saying we're getting into these spaces. Let's not lose our advantage there. There are several doors for us to take. Let's take them all at the same damn time. Let's talk about the Bronx, right? Jerome Avenue bid, that was something that I have been watching for years back, right? Bloomberg left his mark where he started this 10-year plan. This fool de Blasio came through and just, Jesus, Lord, what he did with it, destroyed it. So now what do we have? The Bronx, overpopulated already. They killed Jerome Avenue. They're starting to break things up. The 10-year plan created the Jerome Avenue bid, which then broke up neighborhoods. You want to take it back to Robert Moses days? This is a repeat of Robert Moses days with the Cross Bronx Expressway and how they destroyed the Bronx. So in our time right now, because we sit back, we don't vote, we say they are going to mess it up, we allowed them to kill one of our major streets and give it back to the white man for his pleasure, for him to coming along and to create spaces to where they're getting rich and they're just pushing us into newfound projects. All of these little buildings that's coming up, they look the same. The structures are the same. Most of the owners, you start to look at the who's owning it and who's the construction companies that are getting the contracts. Similar. Start paying attention to these trends. It's because we didn't pay attention when we should have. So when elections came up, local elections, people were voted into office because only about 20 to 27% vote in particular areas in the Bronx. So the same voices get at the table and support these different things that the city is trying to push out. So if we don't understand how important it is that we not only vote in the presidential elections, but we vote in every single election that comes around, we are going to continue to sit here and complain. We are going to continue to feel less than, and the book cover, nor the storyline will ever change. We got to get up. We got to get up, vote, and then, like Britnee, I think you mentioned it, hold people accountable. And we hold them accountable with our voices and our actions. Yeah.
Really quick before we move on, you said something that I say very often, that the system, that this is the way the system is designed. People always say that the system is broken, and I remind them, listen, it is not broken. Like, bruh, I got a whole degree in the system. It ain't broken. It works exactly the way it's designed to work. What you haven't figured out is that the shit is not designed for you, period. We gotta hack this shit, period. Like, my issue with Democrats and my issue with, it's crazy because I just got into this with one of my homeboys. He's also very educated. Him and his wife do very well. They're both, super educated. I consider him a fucking black elitist. They, these be the motherfuckers that tap dance on my nerves. I gotta, that shit irks me. The shit irks me. But that's another conversation for another day. But he's in law enforcement, and we were just going back and forth on black on black crime, how that's a narrative, not a fucking actuality. I won't even hop on that because that'll be a whole other podcast. But to the fact that the system works exactly as it is designed. Our communities are over policed. our communities are not treated with the same humanity, much less deference that other communities are treated with. This shit is all intentional. We are overcharged in court. All of this shit is like none of this shit is accidental. None of this shit is accidental like you see here in Florida right now. So I got back in 2017. That's the year that we had restoring felons' rights to vote on the ballot. We restored their rights. With the restoration of their rights, you do have to pay all of your outstanding fines in order to vote. Now, Dick Santis is like, well, we don't have an obligation to tell you everything that you have outstanding. See, it's the dumb shit. You see what I'm saying? It's the constant setup for the failure. So cool, I'm willing to now pay my fine so that I can restore my rights, but you won't even tell me what I owe. Make it make sense. Again, because this is how the system is designed to work. This is the way the system is designed to work. And this is why, like, a lot of us who are Black attorneys of this generation, we're really big on this, like, Black Lawyers Matter shit, because it takes learning the system, studying the system to learn how to hack the system. And it becomes, at least in my experience, it does become extremely frustrating. It's like most things with being a Black woman, it's a selfless job, because it's extremely frustrating to try to explain to people, listen, the system works the way it's supposed to work. Let me tell you what you got to do to circumvent the bullshit. This is how you got to play the game. No, because, you know what I'm saying, because my man said it when I looked up. Okay, beloved, I'm not going to do this with you all day. I'm going to give you the motherfucking recipe. Cook that shit up how you want to. That's all I can do for you. And it's a very similar thing with the Democrats. Like, the Democrats and apathetic Blacks and elitist Blacks love to fucking hold the moral line. Everyone wants to be the moral majority. Well, and I love my first lady. I stand for her. But that when they go low, we go high shit, that ain't me, sis. That ain't me. If you go low, I'm going to kick you in your fucking face, because that's where my foot at. Period. I'm not holding the moral ground. That is not how Republicans keep advancing. They keep advancing because they don't give a fuck about the rules. They set the rules for us to play by them. They do what they want. They govern everybody else by those rules and do what they want. So I'm not going to play by those rules, because I see those rules don't advance me. They don't advance my agenda. They don't advance my community. Those rules were designed to keep me in a space that they are comfortable having me in. Fuck them rules. Fuck them rules. Them rules are for another sucker. I'm going to play the same game you playing. We going to play the same ass game, beloved. Let's see who take this L first. And that's got to be the energy. That's got to be the energy. It's got to be, like, it's enough of this holding the moral ground. Oh, I did the right. Like, I wanted Biden to smoke Trump on some real petty shit, like your wife don't even like you, sis don't hold your hand, she be looking at you like your breath stink. Like, he was wild disrespectful to Biden. He called his son a cokehead. At one point he said Ted Cruz's wife was ugly. He said Ted Cruz's father was a part of the assassination of Kennedy. And they be on some, well, we're gonna take the high ground. No, I'm gonna be like, first of all, you spent $70,000 and the hair, it don't even come all the way across. Your lace is whack. Like, you just gotta be petty back with him. You gotta drag him too. At some point, you gotta be petty too. It just is what it is. Like, we can't always be trying to hold the moral ground. The proof is in the pudding. That is not advancing our agenda. It just isn't.
I don't even know what else to say, but there's so many gems that were just dropped, and I want to pull out some things really quickly before I turn it over to Kevin for the next question. So one, I kind of want to come back to Denise really quickly, right? Because you were talking about just being in the know and understanding what's happening in your community. I'm gonna pause real quick. There was a car in the background. But just the importance of being in the know in your community, understanding local politics, understanding who's making decisions, etc. Right? You spoke about zoning, right? What's happening, what happened with the Jerome Avenue line, we're seeing it right now. Real estate developers have been planning this for a number of years. This doesn't just come out of nowhere. And you mentioned Robert Moses and the way in which highways were created and structured to keep people segregated in a lot of ways, right? So we're seeing this happen now, right? Even if in the South Bronx, as you look along the Bruckner, that essentially divides, right, the hood from like up and coming real estate development and restaurants and you know, the Mott Haven area that's essentially on the come up at the moment, right? So I think it's important to kind of know these things and just be aware, but also know who your local politicians are, right? We had I think it was episode 26, right? Our Kevin, or episode 25. Correct me if I'm wrong.
25.
We just had 25. John Sanchez on, right? He's running for City Council District 15. It's important to know who these people are. If you don't know much about what their role is or community board directors' roles are, listen to that episode. This is why we're doing this work, so that y'all also understand this, right? So many gems being dropped right here. So I just wanted to emphasize the importance of knowing your local politicians and what's on the ballot and what decisions we are voting for. In addition to that, Tasha, you're killing it, right? I think everything you said is exactly right. It's super true. And I think it's important to be aware, again, of what's happening on the federal level, who we're voting for, what they stand for, and how to hold people accountable. Those things are very, very important. And to your point, aside from just politics, in all industries, most of them are ran by white men, right? We know that. A lot of times people of color, particularly black and brown people, particularly even black women, right? As you get more specific, have to deal with a lot. And there's always like taking this high road. Sometimes I feel the same. Like I literally have done work with people who are like entitled white men who do not care about you. You're there to support their work and help them accomplish their goals, but they shit on you, right? And I've literally gotten to the point where I'm like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm going to have this conversation with this person. I do not care if you like it or not, or want to be on the call with me, but this is the conversation that's going to happen. And that's it. And I've literally had to have those conversations with people in the past in which you don't talk to me like that again. Respect my shit. My work speaks for itself, and I'm here for a reason. So I think sometimes you do actually have to let people know who you are. Like you're not there for no reason. You know your shit. And sometimes, and actually not sometimes, a lot of times you know it more than they do. So it's important to think about those things. And I wanted to just kind of pull those themes or those topics out of the conversations that were just being had. I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to turn it over to my boy, Kev.
So once again, ladies, thank you so much for kicking it with us this morning. We really appreciate it. So one thing that I think is on a lot of people's minds is the Breonna Taylor case, right? So obviously we saw no justice in that case. And even when we, for a second, thought there was a glimpse of, we might actually see some justice, no, it was just more BS. So I guess, were any of you surprised by it, and what are your thoughts overall?
So that one hurt. It hurts. For a minute, I was hopeful. Even after the settlement, right? Even after the money came through, because typically we know if you give money, you ain't getting justice. And most times with Black people, we don't get either. I just kind of felt like the fire that was happening around this country would have at least gotten us an indictment. And then when you start to go into, and I'm sure, Tasha, you can speak volumes to this, but when you start reading into how the law is written, you see the loopholes in it. And I'm just like you see loopholes for how that may have been a verdict that they came to. I still feel like this is yet again another slap in the face to us as Black people, and especially us as women, in terms of how racist this country is and how far behind the ball we still are with this. So this one, it hurts because I was hopeful. I'll say I'm still very much energized. I also am needing a little bit of repair for the hurt that was done with this verdict.
Similar to you, Denise, this one really hurt. And for a moment, I had a glimmer of hope, but in the back of my head, I always knew like, well, I know what it really is going to be. And it's just such a state of like, I feel like I'm in a constant state of that, of like having glimmers of hope, especially when it is relatable to the judicial system, like having glimmers of hope, but knowing like what it actually is. Because similar to your point, Tasha and Denise, the system is broken. It's not meant for us to get justice at all in any kind of way. And I just want to give you guys a brief story. So on the day that I knew that the verdict was going to be released, I was on an actual company phone call. And I told them on the phone call, I said, look, I said, the Breonna Taylor verdict case is they're about to release the verdict. And I can't be on this call right now. I said, I cannot be on this call. And as a DE&I leader of this company, I think that we should end this call and give people the necessary grace and opportunity to be able to grieve and have their moment. I was met with no resistance, okay? And like, it's those kinds of things, like this thing impacted all of us. And for so long, 100-something days, we were waiting for this verdict. And so this I knew was gonna impact not only me, but also the community that I was currently in. And, you know, it is just another example of white men not being held accountable. And it's so disheartening to continuously see white men not being held accountable for murder, for legit murder. And for, you know, the verdict to come out and say, you know, that this man is actually being charged for, you know, damaging a piece of sheetrock wall over this woman's life. I mean, it's I can't comprehend. And it's another slap in the face to Black women. It is another situation where we feel like, you know, we are that our life is just, our literal body is not valued in this country. And it's another moment where, you know, you just feel hopeless when it comes to the judicial system. Honestly, it's a system that, you know, it don't need to be reformed. That shit needs to be abolished, broken down, and built from the ground up. Like, people are always talking about, well, reimagine what the judicial system could be, or, you know, let's reform. No, you can't reform this. Like, you need to break that shit down, abolish it, break the whole shit, and build it up from the ground up. Because, you know, until we're able to do that, like, we are just never going to seek justice as a people. And Black and brown women and children and men are going to continuously die at the hands of white racists. And it's so interesting because I've had this conversation with a number of people in my organization who are very pro-police. It's not all police, it's only some of us. And, you know, I always meet them with, you know, if there are good apples in this bunch, how are they holding themselves and their team and their department accountable to not being racist? And not policing communities, right? And it's just like, if you look at, you know, Black communities and how they're policed in the suburbs are given more money towards resources, towards after school programs, towards, you know, housing, whatever it may be. And we are giving money to the police to be able to police us in our communities. And it's just like, where are the lack of resources? Like, how are we getting resources, right? And like, how are we making our communities better? Policing and police are not making our communities better. They're just not. And it's like, we have the data to show. You need data? Like, let me throw you all the data. Like, how many more people have to die at the hands of racist police for people to be able to get it? And so again, similar to you, Denise, and I'm sure Tasha, like, this one hit hard because, you know, here is a Black woman who was literally doing everything right in her life, like everything right. And to know that somebody could literally go into her house and kill her without any repercussions, like, you know, is crazy to me. I could die tomorrow, right? Like, a person, and there's been this conversation of, oh, well, you know, she was, you know, hanging with X group and that was a bad group. And it's like, when does hanging around your social groups become a justification for you being murdered? It makes absolutely no fucking sense. And so we need to stop saying, you know, well, that's why she was murdered, or, you know, this. And it's like, no, her murder was unjustifiable and nobody has been held fucking accountable. So it's just disheartening to see. And, you know, and I hate to say it, I'm sure this won't be the last. And until there is deep affected change within the system, because this is systemic, okay? Deep reform and abolition of this system, and it's built from the ground up. You know, I almost expect to see things like this. And it's so disheartening to have to live in this state of fear as a Black woman, you know, who has Black friends and, you know, a Black mother. And it's just like, you just never know. I'm in a constant state of, oh God. And it's just like, I don't have to live like that. I shouldn't have to live like that. And so this case was just, I mean, it really hit hard and home for me. And I'm still not over it. I'm still going to be bringing up this case in my work environment because it's so important. I'm still going to be talking about this shit because you know, someone in my organization has said, well, you know, well, how is this affecting our job? And it's just like, excuse me? It's just like, what? And so like having to have these conversations, which I hope we'll get into later, Jason, about the specific role and what I'm doing, but having to have these conversations in a professional setting is just as impactful, because if you don't think that the injustice that we see from this murder case doesn't mirror injustices that we see in our daily professional life, just having to live and be Black and brown, like, I mean, you're sadly mistaken. So again, just super, super disheartening, the verdict of that case.
I just wanted to tag on really quick to something, Britnee, you were saying. So it just really continues to paint the picture of how this country views Black women. And I'm going to throw the word out there and say the country sees us as worthless. They use us for our labor. They use our bodies, like was already mentioned. They continue to use us and then can be reckless with their disposal of us, when and how they choose. Every single thing that happens is nothing more than a page turner in this country's racist storyline. That time and time again, this is how the law is used. So yes, we need to abolish it. Each law gets used and we see the story, racism.
So I have a very multi-layered feeling about Breonna Taylor. One, once I learned who the AG was on the case, I knew exactly, I anticipated not being satisfied with the indictment. What I did not anticipate, and I will say this, I read the complaint from the juror who has asked to have the indictment, the grand jury indictment released. It was supposed to be released yesterday. As of the last time I checked yesterday, it had not been released yet. So to date, if it has been released, I have not read the full indictment. What I know of the indictment, you know, through hearsay like everyone else, is that the indictment doesn't have any body count. It doesn't have any counts for a body on it. So my issues are multi-layered when it comes to Breonna Taylor. My issues are, this is what I mean when I say Black women don't feel protected by Black men. This is what I mean. That is a Black man that's a Black man that slid out a Black vagina, that was in a space to protect a Black woman. And he consciously chose to do the opposite. He made a conscious decision to do the opposite. This isn't like, you know, your random, you know, some dude on your block who probably strung out on some shit, who robbed, you know, your aunt or some shit, and you like, yo, that's fucked up. You grew up on my block. Why would you do that? But you know, he a little fucked up. No, this is someone who's very intelligent. This is someone with a lot of access. This is someone who made a conscious decision to be an accomplice to the murder of a Black woman. That shit pisses me off on so many levels. Second of all, as an attorney, we take a fucking oath. We take an oath. And because he's in his seat, he took 2 oaths. He took the oath to his bar, he took his oath of office. He has a responsibility to be unbiased in his prosecution. And when he is unable to be unbiased, he has a responsibility to excuse himself, or recuse as we use in the court. He has a responsibility to say, yo, I cannot be unbiased. Somebody else has got to handle this. Instead, he went about his way. He went about his personal agenda. The police have long been friends of his, funders of his, supporters of his campaigns. So he chose his own allegiance over the law, over his oath, over his responsibility. That's issue number 2. Issue number 3, it doesn't often happen concurrently that you see a civil settlement while they are still trying to bring a criminal indictment. It can happen, but it doesn't happen very often. Very often that criminal case plays out and then you see a civil suit. I think what a lot of people don't understand, and I talked about this on my podcast last week, is that criminal court is the government, it's the state. That is not you personally. You know, a lot of people talk a lot of shit about her family getting a settlement. As an individual, Your only access to justice is through the civil court. That is where you sue the person responsible for your harm. In criminal court, the reason why it reads the state versus is because the state is the one seeking justice. The state did not feel aggressed. The state did not feel aggressed by the death of a Black woman. So they didn't seek justice. This is on fucking brand for America. This is what I mean when I say the system isn't broken. And the system is extremely layered and extremely convoluted on purpose. It's not designed for you to get it. They charge you $1 million fucking dollars to learn it. That's a whole nother issue with access to education, but we could say that for another fucking day. It is intentional in the way they went about it. So the third layer of what pissed me off is that you can settle for wrongful death, which means you acknowledge that dead body is because of the bullet that came out of a gun issued by this motherfucking county, city, state, municipality. But you don't acknowledge that dead body on the criminal indictment? See, that is intentional. That's willful and that's intentional. From my seat, there needs to be sanctions from the bar. I am personally filing a complaint with the Kentucky bar in regards to this indictment. I'm just waiting for the full indictment to come out so that I can read all of what the charges are, because if there's no charge on there for homicide or manslaughter, something that involves a body, like I'm well aware every criminal statute is different by jurisdiction. And so, you know, when you bring your indictment, you bring an indictment for what you can prove. If you can't prove murder in the first, but maybe you can prove murder in the third, or you can prove manslaughter, or you can prove depraved indifference, you bring it for that. But you bring an indictment for that body because that woman's body is in the fucking ground. That is a non-negotiable. If there's nothing on that goddamn indictment about the body, I know that I'm personally filing a complaint with the Kentucky bar. I encourage everybody, because you do not need to be an attorney to file a complaint against a lawyer with any state bar. I encourage everybody. Like, there needs to be sanctions. He needs to lose his license. He needs to lose his job. This is a dereliction of duty from where the fuck I sit. And that's just from my professional hat. As a Black woman, I am enraged. Enraged. I am on fucking fire every fucking day. To your point, Britnee, the day that the verdict was coming out, I purposely didn't read it because I knew that I had a call with one of the most passive aggressive white women I've worked with in a very long time. And I knew that I was going to be very aggressive if I heard that indictment and she tried me on that day. This was not going to be the conversation sis signed up for. It never is. It just was going to be worse than usual. It was going to be much worse than usual. So I didn't even bother with it until after work. And then when I heard the indictment was for the drywall and not the woman, I said, I'm gonna need to call out tomorrow. Mind you, my whole upline is Black women. My manager is a Black woman. My DVP is a Black woman. With my manager, I would consider that Black girl magic. With my DVP, Black girl tragic. She's one of those people that likes to kowtow to the lighter side of things. And I already knew I wasn't gonna have time for sis. And sis has been brought up to speed on the fact that I ain't the one. So I was like, I may need to call out because, and she's also an attorney. So, and I think that's part of my frustrations with her, because you know what I know. You know what I'm saying? Like, sis, you see the shit that I'm seeing. You have to be upset about it. You can't not be upset about it. So when I seen it, I was enraged. I knew that I was not going to have the space for what I call tote talk, which is when people try to talk to you with calming, soothing words. Nah, bitch, I'm living this life in fucking Technicolor and 4D HD. No, don't talk to me soft. Don't talk to me like, oh, well, you know. No, I am enraged. You should be too. Police brutality is not a Black issue. It's an everybody issue. They are also brutal to you motherfuckers. The only difference is y'all get justice. Y'all get justice. Again, we're not asking for revenge. We're asking for parity. We just want equity. We want to also have justice when our dead bodies are laying in the fucking streets, when grown men are being murdered on fucking camera for the fucking excess of 7 minutes screaming for their mother. We just want parity. So yeah, that Breonna shit set me off. I am hopeful that the governor will, if there's nothing on that indictment for a body, I am hopeful that the governor will assign a special attorney, and they will file another indictment. That's my hope. As long as you haven't been prosecuted for it and found not guilty, there's no double jeopardy. So they can bring another indictment, and that's my hope. And I got to tell you, it's a very thin layer of hope. I mean, I'm talking like one of them face masks from the beauty supply store thin, very, very thin layer of hope. But that's where I'm at.
First of all,
really quickly, Jason, I'm sorry. Tasha, you bring so much value to this specific conversation, considering your background. And, you know, I think part of just the gap of knowledge here is, you know, that we don't really know the law. Yeah. We don't really know the ins and outs of, you know, a case, or, you know, what, you know, verdicts actually mean, or what the cases actually mean. And I'll be honest to raise, you know, my hand and say, you know, a lot of the cases, I don't even know what the media is giving me. And we already know that the media is not coming with you know, an unbiased lens in many cases. And so I think that your position in this conversation is just so impactful, because, you know, as a community, we don't really have a lot of knowledge about the law, even though it severely and directly impacts us so much. And so I just really appreciated you being able to break this down in a way that is digestible to me, and I'm sure will be digestible to others, and to really challenge us to really actually do the work and knowledge to research these cases and do more, find out more information about the law and how it is, you know, where are the loopholes and what do these actually mean specific to our community and our people. So I just wanted to say that I appreciate you in this conversation.
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
You know, I echo all the same sentiments. I mean, thank you all for giving us your honest thoughts and you know, bringing both your personal selves and your professional selves to this conversation, right? Because I think it's needed, and I think a lot of people don't get a chance to do it. Denise, you mentioned this in the very beginning of the podcast, is you were kind of like, hey, I don't know how authentic to be in this conversation, but listening to Britnee, listening to Tasha, you were like, this empowers me, right? This gives me the ability to want to come in and say, hey, yo, this is what it is, fuck it. And I think it's important to have these conversations. So I want to thank you again for just being yourselves, right? I can only imagine the frustration, because I'm mad, I'm angry, right? We share similar feelings, but I will never know what it means to be a Black woman in this country. And I think it's important for us to understand that. So we're here with you. And to that point, I think one thing that Kevin and I often think about as folks who are men who occupy spaces as men and have male privilege, despite whatever challenges we experience, like what is one tangible thing that men who are listening to this podcast and myself and Kevin can do to further support Black women specifically?
Believe Black women. Believe us. There's no fucking reason Megan need to be crying on IG to prove she got fucking shot. Are y'all on crack? Are y'all on something? Seriously. A lot of you motherfuckers wasn't hugged as a kid. Shit ain't right in your head. Believe Black women. We not showing up, throwing our life on the line for you because we don't give a fuck about you. We care about you, so why are we lying to you? We are risking life, limb, fucking opportunities, love, family, for you. So why would we lie to you? Why? It don't even make sense. When Biggie said, I made you, why would I play you? And we are from whence you all come. We gave life to earth. How? Why would we play you? Why? Why? We are nurturers by nature. We ain't trying to play you. Believe us. Now, that's not to say there's a sprinkle here and a sprinkle there liars, but that's amongst every demographic. As a collective, believe Black women. That's what men can do tangibly to start helping us.
Mic drop again. I think that's just it. You know, I honestly is to believe Black women, and, you know, we shouldn't have to jump through loopholes and do a whole fucking circus dance to be believed. And physical assault, sexual assault, getting shot in the foot, you know, we shouldn't have to do these things. And, you know, and I would also, add to that, Tasha, is, holding your brothers accountable. Because I know, I know you a little bit, Kev, but I know Jason very well, and I know the kinds of people that you are, specifically men that you are, and I feel very protected around you. But I also know that you can sometimes enter circles where other men can talk about Black women in very disgraceful ways, and sometimes because that's your friend or colleague, you in that moment won't hold them accountable. And I'm going to talk about you specifically, Jason or Kevin. I'm just saying in a general sense. And so when you hear harmful rhetoric, right, about Black women being discussed in conversation, when you hear the way that people are talking about Black women in social conversations at work or whatever it may be, take a stand. Right? Stand up for us in those moments when we aren't there to defend ourselves, because it's that harmful rhetoric that keeps getting spewed that allow people to actually consciously believe these things about Black women. And so in addition to not only protecting our physical bodies and our space, protect our mental and our spiritual, selves as well. And so again, just believe us when we say that these things are happening to us. And, challenge yourself to think daily, when I keep talking about, empowerment and allyship and how these are active things, think daily about how you are supporting and protecting Black women, not just your friends or, the people who you are attracted to. How are you protecting all Black women, the cute Black girl, the geeky Black girl, the spiritual Black, like we are all different beings, right? And we all need protection. And so really challenge yourself to think daily, how am I protecting Black women's bodies, their mental and emotional safety, because all of it is relevant and all of it is important.
Y'all ladies took it again. So starting with Tasha with the believe, Britney, you brought in the protect, and those are the things, right? So those are just two simple words that have such a huge impact, right? Listen to us, believe us, and then stand beside us and protect us. Britney, you went to some spaces that I often have conversations with men about. So listening to what we're saying and then reflecting on how you view us and how that view of us then transfers into what you allow to be said, to happen to us, what you then do, just the imagery. If you're looking at us and all you see is this sexualized being, that's a problem. If you're looking at us and all you see is a lower figure than a white woman, that's a problem. If you're looking at us and you're seeing a lower figure than, Latin women, that's a problem. We need to be surrounded, loved, and protected by our Black men. So reflect on the things that you think about and the things that you do daily when it comes down to Black women, and see where there's room for change in that.
Really quick, I want to touch on.
Sorry, go ahead, Tasha.
Sorry. I just wanted to touch on something that you said, Britney, about the different Black women that need protection. Like I was saying on my podcast last week, it was about protecting Black women, and one of the things that I mentioned, and I talk about this a lot, is that Black men are really particular, or men in general are particular in the women that they want to protect. And a lot of the reason why I feel like Megan caught a lot of slack is because of her stature. Like, because she's a taller woman, she's a broader woman, it's like, well, why couldn't you defend yourself against Tory? First of all, she shouldn't have to. She shouldn't have to. To Britney's point, all of us should be protected all the time. Not just the woman who looks very petite or the woman who carries herself very petite. I've had these conversations. I have a lot of male friends. I have like a million male friends. I was a tomboy growing up. I'm still an athlete, so I got a million male friends. There are some men in my life that I would walk behind them blindly because I know that they will protect me with everything they have. I don't ever have to worry. There are some men I would walk to the store with their ass. I wouldn't walk to the store with them. I'm not sure they would protect their mother, much less me. And that's problematic. That's there's this real, and the reason why that is because, and I've had this conversation with, men that I've known for years. Oh, well, you good till you can defend yourself. Of course I can, but I shouldn't have to. Motherfucker, you right there. The same way I would not let you engage in a fucking argument with a woman because you have no business arguing with a woman. You should not let any man engage with me any kind of way. if you are present. Just your presence alone should mean that this man, he's not my issue. He's not my issue because you're going to protect me. The fact that men get very comfortable in these spaces with, oh, well, she's outspoken, so she'll be fine. Or, oh, she's this stature, so she'll be fine. Oh, well, I ain't really into her anyway, so I don't give a fuck what happens to her. That's not okay. When we say protect Black women, it is all of us. Not some of us, not the ones you like Britt said, no, it is every single one of us. And it's got to be intentional and it's got to be consistent. My example is always, it can't be, oh, well, no, I just happened to be standing there, so I caught that bullet for sis because I was standing there. No, it's got to be, I saw sis down the block and they were coming for her and I ran down the block to protect her. It has to be intentional and it has to be consistent. That's what protecting Black women looks like. Not at your convenience.
I ditto everything that you just said, Tasha, in terms of protecting Black women and at the frequency of being consistent and not just when you are convenienced. I also would add, in protecting Black women, and when we're having conversations of saying this has happened to me, or, I've experienced this, I also feel like, Black men could do a better job of listening. And what that means is, listen with the intent to understand versus with the intent to respond. And sometimes I feel like we are, literally pouring out our hearts and our souls and the experiences that we've lived. And it's met with a response that has no thought about it. Like, you really haven't understood what I've said here. You really haven't, you don't feel the pain that I've actually gone through here, because your immediate response is to respond with something, right? And so it's so important that we listen with the intent to understand, because similar to your point that you said, Jason, coming from, being a man, you don't necessarily know and understand and feel that the emotional impact of what I might be going through daily. But what I do expect for you as my brother, as someone who I care about and someone who I expect to protect me, just like I would protect you, is to really understand and listen to what I'm saying, reflect on it. See how, this could happen. See how, you could help in a different situation, and really reflect on it. Because I do think a lot of the time it's like, well, they all say that, or they all got attitudes, or and it's just like we've become so generalized. And, Black women, we are not a monolith. Similar to your point, Tasha, like, we come in different forms. We have different experiences, we look different, we embody different values, everything like that. And so really to take the time to understand and listen to a person's narrative, and just listen and then reflect on it, and then being able to assess what your next steps are. So I just think that that's really important as we continue to have conversation as Black women and men of color. And just to piggyback off of that, there's so much healing that needs to happen between Black women and men of color. And that's a whole separate conversation. But I think part of the healing for our community to come together is just listening to us and trying to be able to understand each other a little bit more, versus, not responding or, brushing us off or sweeping things under the rug. We really have to have these dialogues and be opening to understanding and gaining more self-awareness about how we can help, support, and protect each other.
So I just want to say that this conversation has been everything. It has been super fulfilling. I didn't really talk much because I just wanted to listen and learn. Like, I always take notes, but I have my notes here. I just in the interest of time, we are gonna wrap. But a few things that I want to say really quick that I heard that kind of really spoke to me specifically was in the last question that Jason asked and the responses that y'all gave. Believe all Black women. Protect all Black women. Stand side by side with Black women, listening to Black women, asking questions, reflecting, not just to respond. So once again, thank you for being on our show this morning. I can't really express my gratitude in words. I feel really fulfilled and I'm left with so much to think about. Jason and I, we talk a lot, right? So we're definitely going to be processing this even after the episode comes out, right? Because there was so much in there that you ladies left us with. So thank you. So I guess for the listeners, right, if they want to know about the amazing things that y'all are doing, can y'all share your social medias and where they can follow you?
My business name is Never Stop Growing Coaching and Consulting, NSG Coaching and Consulting for short. That is where you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and then just in general. A Bronx girl told me, because Bronx is all through and through everything I have, and that is also on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Britt, did you find it?
I did. Let me tell you something. This Instagram handle is Britnee Rock, okay? At Britnee Rock, okay? But to anyone who is listening, who is in the DE&I space, either at a nonprofit organization or at a corporate organization, I am always here as a resource to help. The work that we do is emotional, and it takes an emotional toll on you to be able to do that kind of impactful work every day. So I'm here as a resource to be able to help you, to be able to guide you through it. I'm also trying to build a community for us so we can support each other. I'm also here to empower Black and Brown women via social and real life. So just hit me up. We can have a sis-to-sis conversation. Like, I'm ready. I do want to be a support system for all Black and Brown women. Our narratives, our stories are important. We need to continue to share and uplift and empower each other. And I'm happy to serve as a vessel to be able to do so.
And last but not least, Tasha, what you got for us?
So the good people can find me on Instagram at Black Gyrl SOS. Girl is with a Y, not an I. The link to everything Black Gyrl SOS is in that bio. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple. We are on YouTube. Please click subscribe and the notification button. I engage a lot on Instagram. I'm always sharing advice, sharing our stories. The one thing you will never find on Black Gyrl SOS is Black death. I do not find any joy in reposting that. I do not support the monetization of it. So you won't ever find that on my platforms, but we will discuss it. We'll discuss it openly. And my law Instagram is Lessington, LESSINGTON_LAW on Instagram. So you can find me there. A lot of my work is tax and business related. I specifically work with minority businesses and women-owned businesses. I told y'all, I'm dead serious about our voices, point blank, period. So if you ever have any questions, if I can be of assistance, I am happy to help and navigate you in the right way, even if I can't be the exact person to help you. So don't be a stranger.
No doubt, no doubt.
But I just realized, listening to both of you guys, I didn't tell people why they would want to look for me. So let me fill that in.
Let them know, sis. Let them know.
And I appreciate you ladies for showing. This is not a thing. However, let me tell y'all why y'all want to look for me. So for those who are listening on the podcast, I am Denise Relf, and my Never Stop Growing Coaching Consulting business is all about helping individuals who are working through a goal, who have different visions, who feel like you continue to come up with these great ideas and you don't move things forward, right? So similar to Britnee in that when she mentioned she goes deep, I go deep, because what I've recognized is that time and time again, we have these visions, we have these ideas, and there are so many elements of us that are not whole and we don't realize. So I work to really partner with you to work through those things. So I have a specialty that I call success blockages, and that's where we really go in deep. And through the creation of a plan around your success blockages, we then move that into the success of your goal achievement. And those two, we partner together. What also is great about the work that I do is that working with me, as much as I would love to have repeat clients, the idea is that this is going to be transformational and there's going to be things that you can apply to many facets of your life, because what we realize is that you may have a goal that looks like it's just over in this one area. Whatever's getting in your way, though, is getting in the way of your success throughout life. So we work together to work through these blockages so that way you can have these transferable skills that you carry forward. So holla at me at NSG Coaching on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and then the links are in the bios to whatever else. In response to what's been happening, just period, I thought it was my way of giving back by offering my consultation services pro bono to the end of the year. So this is me giving back to my community. And I really did this for my Black people, because I also know that sometimes we think, if it's not by way of our basic needs or some kind of purchases in fashion and what have you, then it's not worth the money. And I just want you guys to connect so that we can understand that going in deep and really working on the things that's built up inside of us that we tend to shy away from and never address is worth it. So holla at me, get your consultation.
You were gonna rob us of all of that. You out of line, sis.
Sometimes I'm more of a listener, and I tend to sit back and listen so that I can go. And this is what this is what makes me so good at what I do in my coaching business, because I'm hearing and I'm going through what's happening in between and then bringing that to the light. So I took a lot from all of you ladies.
So did I. This was amazing. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Again, to explain how big this was that you guys did it. So thank you all.
So thank you all. I just want to, before we close out really quickly, just throw out Live from the Bronx social media and where you can follow us. So you can follow us on Instagram at Live from the Bronx. That is BRONX. You can follow us on Twitter at Live from the BX. We have a YouTube channel. It's about to be on and popping. Go to Live from the Bronx on YouTube. You will find us. This episode will be out on YouTube.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You can also go to our website, livefromthebronx.com. Also, feel free to send us an email. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know who you want to be on this show. You can email us at info@livefromthebronx.com.
Yeah, this was episode 27. This was dope, y'all. We did it.